Welcome back, sleepers, to another Dune Awakening video, and today we're going to be talking about labs and how they fit into the game, as well as how they kind of fit into the lore of the Dune universe. Some quick disclaimers. There will be spoilers, so if you don't want some things spoiled, now's the time to turn this off. I'm going to try not to do any big spoilers, but just in general, spoilers. This is also a beta client, so things can change. So what you see here may or may not make it into whatever you get later, so keep that in mind. It is what it is. And probably the biggest disclaimer is I have vertigo and some vision problems that go with it. So if the combat sucks, it's probably me and probably not the game. I am not great at combat, so if you just see me flailing around, that's me. That's not the game. I totally suck at combat, but I love survival games, so here we are. So let's jump on in and look at some labs. In Dune, we've got a few different types because they're not all the same. You'll see eco labs that focus on plants and biology. And the first one that you'll see as you in Haga Basin South, the kind of the starting area, is an eco testing station that focuses on botany and biology, and it tells you straight up that its focus is to try and find botanical solutions, plants that will survive Arrakis. So trying to find ways to grow things, like food. And you'll see as you go down into the lab, it's really green down there. There's lots of plants, lots of water. As Herbert had kind of envisioned, there's going to be these places where water collects and condensation and enclosed systems and plants that recycle water and that sort of thing. So these are definitely lore friendly. As you go into the lab, you'll see these bands. In this lab, it's a yellow band, and the band color matches the door. So you'll know if you come to a door that's got a little color around it, then you need a band to get through the door. Each lab does have its kind of its own story, and you'll find these hints and clues around, some visual clues. Something happened here, as well as some little radios and things like that will kind of tell you the story. And I think that the devs did an amazing job at laying out this great subtle story for us if we just go looking for it. One thing that I think that the developers did a really good job with in these labs was to make them very spooky. There's minimal lighting, but somehow there's all this this greenery, and this one's been invaded by scavengers, so you never know who's going to be around the corner, and there's always this risk of ambush, and things are hidden in corners, and you really have to be willing to go kind of look for the loot. Sometimes it's hidden in fun spots, and so one great thing that they've done is they did this in Conan, how to make sure all of the materials you get are always needed. There won't come a time where you don't need materials from labs, and so knowing where to go get the stuff that you need kind of helps. I mean, there's a fun bit of exploring in them, and some labs are more stressful than others, but there's some satisfaction in finding the stuff as you go through these labs. Because you have to go into this lab kind of early on, it can be challenging at first. You have minimal armor, you've got minimal gear, you've got minimal skills and that kind of thing, and so it can be very easy to be overwhelmed by NPC if you're not careful. they do tend to congregate in places, and they will swarm you if you're not careful. And then you end up in down but not out, and then if they keep doing damage, then you die, and then you get to go respawn, and then make the long run back, and hope that depending on where you respawned at is not too far away, because the NPC will start to respawn in the area, which will make it another long run. Remember when I said I kind of sucked at combat? This is what I meant. This is all me being really bad at it. So yeah. So you remember me telling you that there would be spoilers. So in a moment we're going to come up on that big spoiler for this lab anyway. So if you don't want to know, this is the time to turn off, because otherwise you're going to see, and then you will know the thing that we didn't know for a long time and had to find out the hard way. So if you like to learn things the hard way, this is the time to kind of skip ahead a couple of minutes, and then you'll miss that. So consider yourself warned. If you're still with me, then you will recognize that type of door. We saw that in the movie with Liet Kynes in the eco lab from the movie, where the starter car came. So there's these lore things that the dev team, being the heavy Dune nerds that they are, and working so closely with Legendary, did kind of include these things. So you're like, oh yeah, as you go through it, and everything will have this kind of familiar feel if you've been into the movies. And at the end of this particular, we're coming up to the end of this lab, I'm going to go ahead and yeah. So the other big type of lab that you will find on Arrakis is a geological testing site. So these are a little bit different. Instead of looking for botanical solutions, they're looking at different ores and materials. So these are a lot more underground. So you don't see all the green stuff. You'll see a lot more rocks and digging equipment and things like that. And I think the devs again did a really good job just making it look and feel like you're underground, and there's always these risks, and again, you know, they've been overrun with NPC, different factions. Sometimes the factions will fight, and so you can get caught in the crossfire. They all will shoot at you. They take no prisoners. But just running around in these labs is so immersive. You can get lost in them. There's all of these spaces and cubby holes and just bits of Arrakis to make you feel like you're completely immersed in the planet whenever you're running through these labs. And because I'm not great at combat, I spend a lot of time kind of skulking around the corners and trying to pick apart mobs as best as I can. In this lab, I do have a shield, I do have a little bit better gear, I do have a little bit more skills under my belt, but you know, you still have to be mindful, and because yeah, they will swarm you, and 1 versus 3, depending, you know, you might be able to take it, but 1 versus 5 starts getting a little more hairy. So I really try to avoid getting swamped that way. If you are new to survival gaming, a habit you really need to be cultivating is to channel your inner loot goblin, and really, especially early game, just pick up everything. As you play a little longer, you'll be able to discern a little more what you need more of and what you don't, and some things you'll just need tons and tons of it all the time, and some of it is not so much, but early on, definitely just grab everything. So these doors are called blood doors, and basically once you cross that threshold, you're locked in that room till you kill all the people inside. The more difficult mobs and labs, like you saw in the combat dev stream, there's a lot of killing you have to do before you can escape, so you're locked in there. You've got to always make sure that you're equipped when you go out. If you're going to go into a space, you need to be thinking ahead about what you would need, like extra water, extra darts, extra health kits, whatever, because you can't get out and go grab the ones that you passed because they're behind a locked door. So whenever you cross that door, so it's green and then it turns red behind you, and then once you kill everybody, you'll hear it click and say, you know, the door is open.
Access granted.
The labs can be a lot of fun if you just want to go in and just start shooting people, because there's, you know, a lot. Some of the labs are quite large and can take a bit of time, so make sure you have enough time allotted, because if you log out, there's a risk that you'll log back in a mob or whatever. But if you're wanting to go loot hunting, if you're wanting to go kill people, there's a good place. There's also several contracts that take you down into all of the labs, really. There's a reason to be in any one of them at any given time. But you can farm them if you really want to. But I think running the labs is something that's fun to do as a group, especially because you just zip right through. As you go through, you'll find a variety of weapon types, and I don't think for PvE that there's a firm, meta that, is for everybody. I think that there's lots of options for the things that you like. The blade that I have right there is a blood drinking blade. That's what I keep saying, no container, because it'll draw blood every time you stab somebody, but I don't have any blood bags on me, so it's kind of going to waste because I didn't like carrying them because I was coming in here for loot. This particular weapon right here is quite nice. You can 1 or 2 shot kill things of the same tier, so that can be quite nice. However, it is slow, so solo play with it is slow, and while you are shooting, your shield goes down, so you've got to be mindful of that. But there's lots of weapons. There's Mala pistols, there's this one, there's spit dart rifles, which are ranged weapons, and there's a variety of blade weapons, so you can kind of mix and match. Remember, slow blade penetrates the shield. You can also overwhelm the shield with a lot of high energy darts, so like a disruptor will disrupt the shield and knock it down, but remember, while you're shooting, your shield is down too, and they get to shoot back. So yeah, you just kind of have to figure out what weapons work for you in what situation. There's not different labs, different camps, different NPC will use different things against you, so you have to be kind of thinking, okay, I'm going over here to these guys, they're going to come at me this way, what weapons would work best against them, and kind of go outfitted accordingly, because otherwise you won't last long. I spend a lot of time running in circles, stalling, waiting for my stuff to recharge, because I rely so heavily on like the voice that come here to kind of help me pick apart mobs. Otherwise, they come at me really fast. The voice, the Khmer, they're kind of stunned almost for a couple of seconds, and it gives me a few seconds to kind of decide what it is I'm going to do. But yeah, I gotta wait for stuff to recharge, because again, I'm not a combat machine and I struggle with that, so I have to go very, very slow when I'm running solo. Another kind of lab is kind of an engineering type situation. So this one is a little bit tougher than the other two. It's probably the toughest regional lab there is. And so I brought a friend, brought Kaya, and we're going to kind of run through here. Just the combat's a little bit different, it's a little bit harder. And as you can see, the lab structure is also different. So it's got the furnaces and the smelters and things that are a little bit different from the Eco Lab, which is all green and flowery, to the Geological Lab, which is all rocky and dug out. This one looks a little bit like the Eco Labs. It's got some plants and things, but it's not its primary purpose. So it's got a little bit different feel. Inside this one's got a different NPC as well, and they're a little bit tougher in this one. Something to keep in mind, so in this run through, my primary power set is Bene Gesserit, so I've got the voice, I've got stop, and then I've got a trooper grenade. And Kaya is running primarily a Mentat, so she's got a little bit different power set going. So we have these different things that kind of complement each other. She uses the turret quite a bit, which is very, very handy because it's just something extra to shoot at them with, and it's a nice distraction sometimes whenever you need a little extra something. And it's not as great against shields as some other weapons, but again, it draws fire, and if they're shooting back, then they don't have their shields up, so it does definitely make a difference to have. Between the two of us, the lab was very it's a lot easier than it was trying to run through solo. Solo, this thing at level is, or at the same tier equipment, is very, very difficult. One thing to remember is, so your shields are not forever. They're not they're not unpenetrable. And so when you're fighting, you have to kind of make the decision of who your target is going to be. So in this case, like, we have ranged and melee coming at you. The melee's got shields up, and they are dangerous because they can penetrate the shield. The ranged is also dangerous because they have one tier higher weapons than you do in this lab, in this instance, and they can knock your shield down. So you have to be kind of like, who am I going to go after? Who's the bigger threat right now? The ranged that can knock me down and I can't do much about it without lowering my own shield, or the melee guy who will stand there and stab you in the back as long as he can. So you kind of have to balance who you're going at. At least this is for me. I'm a mid, at best player. For combat lately, not so great. So I have to be very, very careful how I go into combat with people, because I have to be thinking not only, how am I going to keep myself alive, how am I not going to be a hindrance to my teammates. So, heavies. They have a shield that pops back up pretty quickly in between them firing. I like to use the voice to get them to me, that way I can close range with them to get to that shield before they shoot at me more, because they will knock my shield down before I can get to them otherwise. They also have this kind of repulsor power, so if you get too close too long, they can knock you back and it kind of leaves you stunned, which means they have a second or two where they could shoot at you, or somebody else could be shooting at you where you're staggered, and it makes it a little challenging sometimes to have a go at them, especially when you start getting into higher tier labs that are more difficult. Like this one has, there's a space later that I will not show you because I'm not going to spoil it for you. That this is pretty, it's pretty spicy, and they will swarm you. And again, when you've got somebody stabbing you in the back and you've got him on the other side of you knocking your shield down, you have to be very mindful of what your strategy is going to be going in the room, because otherwise you will get swamped and swarmed, and then you'll be down. So that was just kind of a quick overview of the types of labs that you'll see. There's other layouts, there's other looks, but they're kind of the general types of labs that you'll see. They'll have, as you go deeper into the game, they become more difficult, more challenging, with harder NPC and different factions and different loot that you can get. There's an RNG to the loot, so they're definitely worth farming. So we've seen a little bit of the combat types that you can have, different weapons, different skill sets that can be useful against them. And I will leave you there. I'm not going to spoil any more of the game for you, but I really hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see everybody out on the sands.